Okay, so we have talked about the different views represented in the Requiem. So now it's time to introduce what Willie means. Oh, sorry, what Arthur Miller means by this being a modern tragedy. Okay. Okay. This is actually a very important concept because after you get to know why he sees it as a modern tragedy, then you know why the whole play is so emotional or a little bit sentimental. Okay. When Arthur Miller, there is an article which I linked to you here. When Arthur Miller talked about tragedy, of course he has the classical one in mind, and that is the Greek tragedy. And Greek tragedy was defined by Aristotle. There are different definitions of Greek tragedy, but in the center of the Greek tragedy is the tragic hero. Okay, the tragic hero who is larger than life, who is a lot better than the normal human beings, but who has a tragic flaw, 一个悲剧性的缺点。Okay, so these are the two basic definitions. And usually in Greek tragedy like Oedipus, his flaw is hubris. Usually in Greek tragedy, it is pride that marks the flaw of this tragic hero. And sometimes it's blindness that comes together with pride. That Oedipus believes that he can rule over the country, the nation, and make it a better place, without knowing that it is he that brings a curse to the nation, okay, and also to himself. So it's both pride and a blindness to a certain extent, okay. So usually in the Greek tragedy, the hero gets to be faced with his own flaw, okay. So usually there is some revelation or recognition of the human fate, human weaknesses, or the will of God. Okay, and that's the redemption of this tragic hero. That although maybe he's doomed to fail or he's doomed to die, but at the end there is this redeeming grace of recognition and awareness. Okay, so in other words, when we read or watch a Greek tragedy, usually, towards the end, we feel that, oh, this person, although he has problems, like Hamlet, he is so indecisive. But towards the end, we admire him still as a hero because of his, the depth of his thinking and because of the realization he has towards the end of the play. Okay, which make us understand human beings or human society, human fate more. Okay, so the audience's response to the fate of a Greek hero, a Greek tragic hero, is both pity and fear. That maybe we should say admiration, pity, and fear. We admire him at the beginning, and then we pity him for the fate he experiences. And then we are afraid because even such a heroic person can have this fate, not to mention us. Then we are afraid for ourselves. Okay, and as we go through the whole process, when the tragic hero may die or may experience punishment, okay, and then we see almost as if he experiences the punishment for us. So the whole process is a bit like a cleansing, catharsis, that we see him as a scapegoat, experiencing the punishment, the flaw of human beings for us. Okay, so the whole thing is a catharsis. So don't forget that usually traditional Greek tragedies has like princes, kings, or knights as the tragic heroes. But here we have Willy Loman, who is a low man, who is just a small salesperson. Okay. But then Arthur Miller wants to say that he is also a hero. Okay, so this is where he makes a very interesting argument about Willy Loman's being a hero. And after I summarize it, you can decide for yourself whether you agree with it or not. Okay, Because in a lot of your journals, you say that Willy Loman is doomed to fail. He is impractical. He has illusions. He has self-deception, and that's why he's doomed to fail. Okay, but I think that the ending of the play, the Requiem, and also Arthur Miller himself, tries to give him a kind of redeeming grace to make him heroic, and then it's for you to decide whether you agree with it or not. Okay. One thing he argues is that, in our society, usually we don't have the kind of Greek tragedy with such a grandeur or with such heroic personalities, that we see in traditional tragedies. Because in modern day, we don't have that many heroes. So when we look at modern society, we'll need to redefine heroes. Okay, so common man for him should be a subject for tragedy, and his main point is that to be able to confirm common man as heroes, is an act of optimism. It's an act of faith in human society. Some other people will say that it's no longer an age for tragedies. We don't have heroes, so we don't have tragedies anymore. But Arthur Miller will still claim that there can be tragedies, and there can be heroes who deserve our sympathy and admiration. Okay, so the reasons are, for instance, the situation of Oedipus and Erastus. Oedipus, like 弑父恋母, right? The situation of these characters can still happen to us because it's mostly about family relations. It's mostly about trying to do something against one's destiny. Okay, trying to fight against the environment. So these things can still happen to our society. Okay, so the processes these kings and princesses go through can be shared by the common people like us. Okay, so the traditional tragedy with kings and princesses, or prince and princesses, they are no longer relevant to us. Because we don't have that many empires or kingdoms anymore. Okay, so these are the reasons for him to argue that we should turn around and look at common people and see tragic dimensions in their personalities and in their lives. Okay, so here he redefined tragedy a little bit. Okay, instead of saying that, these are the large, broad-minded heroes, he said that these are the common people who try to retain their sense of dignity. And that's the most important definition of a hero. That he, despite everything, despite all the difficulties, try to secure only one thing, his sense of personal dignity. And that's his definition of being a hero. Okay, and the struggle is usually a struggle to gain the rightful position in his society. And this struggle may be a failing struggle. So in other words, maybe one person wants to be successful in the field of science, or in the field of business, or in the field of academia, etc. But he or she may not be able to do it because of some other problems, like he has some illnesses, or she has some family problems. She's tied down to child care or family duties, so that she cannot write academic papers, etc. There can be different difficulties that hamper us from making the progress in the direction we want to take. Okay, but then if we along the way of our efforts, if we keep our dignity, keep our sense of awareness, then we can be a kind of hero in our own world. I think that's what Arthur Miller wants to argue about the modern tragedy. Okay, and so the flaw here can be the unwillingness to remain passive. So in the case of Willy Loman, he keeps trying one way after another. After he realizes that he himself is a failure, he has hope on he put a hope on his son Biff. Okay, after his son owns up that he's a failure, then he keeps his hope on earning money for his son. Okay, so all the way through, he's not passive. He does not want to give up and acknowledges his own failure. So this is a flaw in the constant struggle in his difficult environment, in his difficult circumstances. Okay, so the terror, when we watch this play, as a tragedy, as a modern tragedy, the terror we have here is how the environment can be unchangeable. Like at the end, we have the apartment buildings which rise up in domination. So it suggests that this industrialized city, will dehumanize all of us, will turn all of us into commodities, will commodify our relationship, etc., etc. So so it is this kind of terror that over the environment, how it seems to be unchangeable, that can be struck deep in us when we see how Willy Loman failed in trying to change his position, or in trying to regain the position he thought he had before. Okay, so this is a definition, and okay, so so what Arthur Miller wants to say is that the traditional view of tragedy will think that the environment is unchangeable. But then if we allow the tragic hero, like Willy Loman, to retain some dignity, some sense of dignity, then this is actually a degree of optimism, because tragedy is not really for him. The modern tragedy is not really for us to face the impossible. It's to strike a balance between the possible and what is impossible. In other words, as you try to be sympathetic with Willy Loman at the end, then you can also think maybe there is hope for Biff. Maybe there is hope for Linda, because they finally are free from the old dreams, and then maybe they can have some new development. Okay, unlike Happy, who is still trained to the unrealistic dream, Linda and Biff may have some other future. Okay, so this is a kind of optimism we could maintain. If we see Willy as being a heroic, then even if at the end they don't get the pension, okay, they don't get the money, there may still be hope in their being coming clean of the old dreams. Okay. Okay, so if we want to interpret this, as I said, this is just one interpretation, following Arthur Miller's instruction. So you don't need to agree with it. Okay, but what I'm trying to do here is, as a way of conclusion, I'll just follow Arthur Miller, and then interpret The Death of the Salesman as a modern tragedy, and then we'll look at how Willy is a tragic hero of circumstances as well as personalities. Okay, and then I'll try to redeem Willy, or his nobility, by looking at success from different perspectives. In other words, if we redefine success, then we don't need to see Willy as completely a complete failure. He is a complete failure if we see success only as business success, commercial success, or success in the business world. But if we look at success from different perspectives, then maybe he still succeeds to a certain degree. Yes, okay. And then also maybe we can see hope in Linda and Biff. Okay, so this is also a summary, because I think we have talked about it. How there are circumstances that lead to Willy's tragedy. Also, there are elements in his own personality that causes the tragedy. For instance, he is he lacks model. He lacks a good role model. Father Loman is long way gone. He doesn't even know him. And then Dave Singelman and Ben are the only two models which are available. Okay, but Ben is opportunist. Some of you think that Ben is realistic. Ben is hardworking. I don't really think so. You can try to convince me, by giving more reasons. But the very statement he repeats twice, that he goes into the jungle at the age of 17 and then come out at the age of 22 or 23. Anyway, come out enriched. Without talking about what happens in the middle, in the jungle, make me feel that, all he does there is plundering the rich raw materials from the natives in Africa. Yes, and then he's opportunist in, going to one borders after another. First to Alaska, to plunder nature, to get timber, and then to Africa to get diamond. So I do feel that Ben is opportunist. Yes, but you can disagree. Okay, so another person in your journal, I think, very nicely point out the possibility that Willie suffers from the fear of abandonment. I know that this is a SparkNote interpretation, which can be considered, but actually, some of you wrote something which are enlightening to me because I didn't think of that. So in that way, that's good. All I ask you to do is to quote, because you shouldn't get somebody else's idea and then see it as your own. That's the only thing I'm asking you to do. But the fact that you read SparkNotes is good. Like if you have read the primary text, and then if you go on to read some other interpretations, that's good. That means that you are hardworking. Okay. So yes, I think I don't want to emphasize that. I don't think, yes, you can see the pattern of being left behind by Father Loman, and then by Ben, and then by the two sons in the restaurant. So there is indeed this motif of betrayal or abandonment. But I don't really see Willie suffering from a fear of abandonment. I see him as lacking role models, not knowing how to do it. Okay, so I think it's a matter of different interpretations. So here he doesn't have a father, a role model around. Okay, and then Dave Singelman is the thing of the past. His popularity is no longer possible in the present time. Yes. Okay, so basically Willie Loman is an example of how Salesman is kind of outdated. Yes. Okay. Related story is 儿子的大玩偶. By Huang Chunming. Yes, the Sandwich Man. But interestingly, in the film and the story by Huang Chunming, we have the Sandwich Man being outdated, like Willie in The Death of a Salesman. But interestingly, nowadays we have the return of the Sandwich Man with a real estate business, right? Okay, but I feel that it just proves that real estate business is really, the business which earns a lot of money, so that they can hire, human bodies, to do this kind of personal promotion for them. Yes, okay, which should be very expensive. Yes. Okay. Anyway, so this is the factor of circumstances, and then the factor of personality. I want to just quickly go over the part we have talked about, that he's blind, he cares about appearance, he's a loving father, and then here this is what I added. You can also say that he retained his dignity by staying on the battlefield all the way through. Okay. Remember, at one point, Bernard said, sometimes it's better to just walk away. Okay. And another point, Howard said, why don't you just get help from your sons? Okay. Why don't you just relax and then depend on your sons? Okay. I think that other people would just ask him to give up, to relax and retire and become dependent. But Willie is one to refuse to walk away, to continue to fight. Okay, so I think that this is what makes him a dignified person, a noble person in a way. Okay, and also the fact that he does not want to work for Charlie, you can say that this is really false pride. Because Charlie is his friend, and maybe he'll be doing a job of like a janitor or a secretary or something like that in the office. but it is still work, and it can still get him some money. And sometimes, from our perspective, we want ourselves to compromise, and to at least get a footing first, and then try to improve our positions. But Willie, being so old, he's above, working for Charlie. So in that sense, he's still one person who retains his own sense of pride. Yes, okay.